Hi, I'm Ruth Angelina and this is Simply Made Fancy. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I created a Voltron GEODE cake for my son's birthday. So it's party mode at the Mercado home because my son Blake is having a birthday party for his 5th birthday. Now I'm making a GEODE cake because he wants a Voltron themed birthday party, and I thought that a GEODE cake will make the perfect look to tie in all that space and rocks and superheroes and galaxy type of cake. This is my very first time making a GEODE cake, so I'm trying to figure it out as I go, but I think I have a pretty good idea. There's a lot of good tutorials out there and Pinterest is amazing. So what will you need for this cake? I decided to make a vanilla cake, and one of the layers I made it funfetti to make it a little bit more festive for the kids. And you'll also need, of course, your buttercream, fondant, food coloring for your fondant, and then important elements that you'll need is to make rock candy. You can also purchase rock candy, but you can make it yourself. You can actually purchase rock candy on Amazon. I did not have enough time, even with Amazon Prime, to order any, so I'm making my own. And it's simple and you only need a couple of ingredients. Corn syrup, sugar, and water. And you boil it, and then if you want to color it, you color it. I'm just using it plain white because I'll be coloring it on the cake. And then you boil it just like candy and let it set, and then you just kind of smash it away. So that's what I'm getting ready to do. I have my pan on the stove and some water. I have a half cup of water. I'm gonna let that go and get hot. And then I'm gonna add 2 cups of sugar and 3 1/4 cups of the light corn syrup. And then let it boil. Turn off the heat. Let the bubbles kind of simmer down, and then pour it on top of a baking sheet that I've lined with foil, and I sprayed it with some cooking spray. The half cup of water is coming to a boil, so I'm gonna let the 1 cup of the sugar in there and let it dissolve for a little bit. You can also flavor this if you want. I'm not flavoring it because its all sole purpose is for decoration. I'm adding another cup of my sugar. I'll add 3/4 cup of my light corn syrup. Now I don't have a candy thermometer to make sure that this concoction is ready, but I do have a trick, and one of these days I will remember to pick up a candy thermometer when I get to the store. This is a little trick that I use, and I don't remember where I picked it up, probably Martha Stewart. I just take a little bit of the melted candy, and then always make sure you use a wooden spoon and get some cold water and drop a little bit into the water. If it forms a ball before hitting the bottom, just like this, then this candy is ready. Now I'm gonna take it off the heat and let it rest for a little bit and cool down. So here's my baking sheet, and I lined it with foil, and then I sprayed it with some cooking spray. Now warning, don't ever touch this hot candy with your fingers or any part of your body because it really burns. To speed up the process of making this rock candy, I put my cookie sheet into the fridge so it can get harder a little bit faster, and then I don't have to wait around so much. And it actually worked. Look, rock candy. And now I have a whole sheet, and I'm just gonna break it up and mash it up and make some pieces of rock candy. Okay, so one little thing, because I sprayed the cookie sheet with some oil, I would just wipe it off a little bit because it is a little oily and you don't want that in your candy. So yeah, I'm just gonna take off some of that oily residue. So I broke apart the really big pieces of my rock candy. So now I'm gonna put everything inside a Ziploc bag and kind of smash it a little bit so it doesn't fly all over the place. So this is looking pretty good. I didn't want to crush it too small, but you also don't want them so big. So see, that wasn't so hard to make rock candy. But if you want to save yourself the trouble, I would order it on Amazon. A few other elements that you're gonna need to complete the look of your geode cake are foiled gilded sheets of paper. I got silver. You're also gonna need food coloring in the colors that you want to tint your rock candy in the middle. I'm doing kind of like a rainbow, so I needed a couple of different colors. You can also get some luster dust to give it a little bit of a sheen. And you're gonna need some actual rock candy. I found these rock candy lollipops at Party City, and I'm gonna decorate the top of the cake with them. I got some white and rainbow color to go with the colors that Voltron is comprised of. As you already saw, I made the rock candy, so now I'm just gonna work on the fondant and make it marbled. So what you'll need is fondant. I'm using the Wilton fondant. I've also used other brands, and I've never made my own, but one of these days I'm going to venture and make my own fondant. That might be another video. And for the colors of my marble, I'm going to be using black and blue. I want it to look like outer space, so that's kind of why I went with these colors. Let's see how this turns out. Very important thing, I wear gloves when I'm working with food coloring, so try to protect your hands. So what I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna put a couple of drops of black in different locations, and then the same thing with the blue. And then I'm just gonna start molding this together. Already you can kind of see the colors coming together. In order to create that marble effect, you don't want to over knead your fondant, because otherwise it'll just become one color. You see? So now I think I got it just where I wanted, so now I'm just gonna start rolling out my fondant. Now that's a beautiful marble, and it's exactly how I wanted it to look. I'm so glad, because you only have one try with this. Now I'm ready to put the fondant on top of my cake to cover it. Now this is a little bit tricky because I hate it when my fondant cracks or creates bubbles or anything like that. It's like a cake decorator's worst nightmare to ruin your fondant and have to start all over again. And since this is already marbled perfectly, I want to make sure that it goes on perfectly. It's just dripping it over, making sure every inch is covered, and working quickly so that it does not create any weird seams or cracks. Okay, now I cut along the seam. And now just smoothing. It looks pretty good, and this cake is pretty forgiving since I'm gonna be adding some rock candy to it, so I'm not too worried. And also it is a marbled cake, so it doesn't really matter if it has little creases on the fondant. It's looking good. Now on to the next step. And now for the most important part of this cake is cutting out the portion that's gonna be where the rock candy is gonna sit to give it that geode rock effect. And I actually like the shape that my fingers are making, so I'm gonna attempt to make that shape. So you see, I have the shape and I'm just gonna carve into my cake. I have my frosting and I'm just going to fill in the spots. So this is the little cutout part already covered with the buttercream frosting. And for my next step, I'm gonna use the gilded silver leaf to add a little bit of a border on the sides. And all I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna touch up the border with a little bit of water to create a little bit of a sticky surface. And then just like that. And this is the cake. I'll give you a closer look of what it looks like with the silver leaf on the edges. And now it's time to start adding the rock candy. So I'm gonna start by putting some in the middle and then working my way out with some bigger pieces. Now here's the rock candy that I created earlier. So I'm just gonna try to get the smallest pieces in there. I would definitely suggest you do this on a tray. Now that looks pretty cool. It looks just as good, just like this, but I'm gonna add a little bit of color inside so that it can match the theme of Voltron using the Voltron colors, which is yellow, green, red, and blue. So I've selected my food coloring and the same colors in the color luster dust. And I have a little bit of vodka and a little bit of water so that I can mix some of the colors. So I'm gonna start with some red on the inside. That turned out to be more perfect than I ever thought it would come out. Now I'm just gonna add a couple of finishing touches to finish off the cake. So I added a couple of little touches. I put some more rock candy on the bottom, and then a couple more spots I added some silver leaf to it to make that crackle effect. Now, time for the finishing touch, and it's to place this Voltron that my husband got on Amazon on top, and some of the rock candy as well coming out of the top, kind of like pushing through. Okay, so I figured out my placement. This is the front of my cake, so this is the middle, and then we got the rock candy. I'm gonna use the main colors and then intertwine some white rock candy that I have as well. This is complete. This is how I want it. I'm not gonna keep the Voltron on top until the day of the birthday because it keeps falling and I have to figure out how to keep it up there. But I really like it. It's super, super cool. I'm sure Blake is gonna love it. And hopefully he won't remember that he wanted a big, giant Voltron cake.
Welcome to my party.
You like it? You happy about your party?
Happy birthday to you.
Yay!
I worked so hard on this cake that I did not want to cut that part off. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please make sure to hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe and check out some of my other videos. See you next time.